Good morning. Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak, and I want to introduce the panelists once more. Nelson Koech is the Member of Parliament of Belgut. He's also the chairperson of the Defence and Foreign Relations Committee. Good morning and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Sam. Good morning.
Great. And Sam Atandi is the Member of Parliament for Alego Usonga. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Happy New Year, Sam.
I hope I'm not missing any other position.
Yes, you're okay.
Okay.
So far, you're okay.
Okay. Jane Kagiri is the woman representative for Laikipia County. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
Am I missing any position?
No, you're not.
Oh, okay. All right. Then I'm on the right side of the show. And we're here to talk about two main issues. First of all, the politics and development. We saw the tour of President William Ruto in Nyanza region. And you'll also be speaking about the IEBC transition. Today we understand that the two commissioners and their chair, Wafula Chebukati, will be releasing the post-election evaluation report and also sort of giving a summary of the experience that has been 6 years. They leave office tomorrow. We'll be looking at what happens to the IEBC and also the sort of commissioners that the country must get to succeed the Chebukati Commission. But first, looking at the dailies this morning, junior secondary, the Great Divide is the main story on the Standard. Head teachers are rushing to prepare facilities for the start of new term, but a visit to schools shows public primary schools have no laboratories for new curriculum, and others reporting inadequate number of teachers, while private schools are all set. That's the contrast that you see between the private schools and the public schools. And of course, there's an interesting line there that members of parliament are non-committal on whether NGCDF will be used to build labs and other facilities fast enough, as there are other projects that are incomplete. Let me begin there. And Honorable Koech, I don't know how much you've been able to interact with the realities on the ground on how prepared the schools are to commence grade 7 or junior secondary, despite the instructions from the Working Party and the directions that are given by the President.
Thank you, Sam. Part of last week, I had my public participation. So I did a good round of my constituency. And to be very honest, the situation is not what is being reported. First of all, you must realize that we've had a long, protracted battle to bring back CDF after the court made a ruling. Mm-hmm. It has only taken the benevolence of this government to allow some trickling of funds. Mm-hmm. And so far, they have remitted, when I checked last, it was 7 million. I don't know if this week...
For your constituency?
Yeah. I don't know if this week there has been any disbursement. Mm-hmm. I am lucky because I have served also. This is my second term. So at least there are projects that I know. I have institutional memory of my constituency, and I know exactly which schools need what. But I can tell you that if we do not get these funds, all this we are talking about will just be a talk. There is lots of funds to be done. Even before we go to junior secondary school laboratories, there is so much in that we need in improving the infrastructure that exists. You'll realize that most of the primary schools that we have in our villages are so old. We are doing renovations, first of all, removing the old buildings and building new ones. It will take a bit of time before now we can focus on model laboratory and the cost therein involved. So I will just say we will need more funds. We will need a lot of support from the government to make sure that the disbursement of NGCDF funds come in so fast to make sure that we mitigate on the requirements by the government for junior secondary school. Until then, and then another thing that is very, very important, the shortage of teachers. That is why you find there's all this glamour. Everyone is looking for a teacher and an opportunity to employ teachers. It had even come to members of parliament, and you saw until the president said, you guys have to back off. We are coming in, we are trying to step in because we understand the situation in our constituencies. There is absolutely big problem in terms of teaching staff. There are no teaching staff. Very few are there that have been trained on CBC. So it is a big problem even starting from there, even before you go to the lab. So it's a major, major problem everywhere.
Yet schools have to reopen next week. For junior secondary, I think they should be reporting on 24th or 23rd of January. And you're talking about it will require time and resources. Are you able to estimate how much time that would mean for this to be fixed so that at least you have a lab that is functional?
Putting up structures is first of all, there's a procurement process. Then you finish the procurement process, there should be funds and buildings. So you give it about 6 months.
6 months?
Yeah.
Samatandi, what is the situation in your county and what are the concerns of parents?
Thank you very much, Sam. And Happy New Year to viewers. I've not been here in a long time. Thank you again for inviting me.
Welcome back.
Yeah, and first of all, I think the information that members of parliament are not committed to on whether CDF should be used, this is really misinformation. Because as my colleague has elaborated, we are yet to receive resources since the start of this parliament. And we are in the third quarter. We have only received 7 million. By now, we should have received actually 3/4 of our resources. So MPs are struggling on how to go about this. But more importantly is that the situation is not very good, especially for us, for me in Alego Usonga. Remember, Sam, that there is a policy shift on these CBC structures. Before this government, the position was that the junior secondary school was supposed to be domiciled in the present secondary schools. Remember, Magoa traveled all over the country building new classrooms in secondary schools.
Yes.
Now this policy shift, now that junior secondary schools are going to be domiciled in primary schools, has brought a lot of problems. Because the structures, the former government built more structures in secondary schools. Now we are coming back to primary schools. That is the first problem. The second problem is that even for the laboratories, the ministry has not decided what kind of laboratories they need. Because I believe the laboratories that are needed for CBC in junior primary secondary schools is different from the laboratories we are building in secondary schools. So a new technology needs to be brought so that even if you go to build laboratories, we know what kind of laboratories we are building. And when I spoke with the PS for education last week, he told me that they are working on that. So I think you cannot blame members of parliament on this, because even if you wanted to do it, we have to be told what kind of laboratory we are building to meet with the requirements of the CBC.
And how difficult would it be for you? Because CDF works in a certain format. There's all the issues of public participation. There's the fund committee, fund management committee that is responsible there. How easy or difficult would it be to say that there is a request from the national government that is spending resources to build schools versus the interest of the people on the ground and what the structures there have to say?
Well, I think there's really no disconnect. There's no large disconnect, because if we have a new system of education that requires that each primary school adopts a laboratory as a priority, then that is what is adopted, even by the community. Because if you need a laboratory in a particular area, the community needs it, obviously, because that is what is supporting the education in that area. So I don't think there will be a large disconnect.
How many schools do you have in your constituency?
Unfortunately, I have the largest constituency in Kenya, in my view.
Is that so?
Because I have more than 220 primary schools and 71 secondary schools. There's no constituency that. Even my colleague here, I think, has less. So
to equip all these with the laboratory, really, what would it mean?
So we need, if the Ministry of Education came up with a simple model laboratory that would cost maybe less than 1 million shillings or 1 million shillings, then it is possible. But right now, the laboratories that are being built in secondary schools cost a lot of money, more than 3 million shillings. So I think this is where the problem is, and I think the Ministry of Education, according to the PS, is working into helping us to come up with a simple model laboratory that will cost less.
Okay. All right. Mheshimiwa Jane Kagiri, good morning. I haven't hosted you before, so karibu sana.
Asante.
Tell me about your county, because there are all these challenges about infrastructure, about teachers. Are there things that are quite peculiar with your county and some local solutions you're finding?
Good morning, Sam, and thank you for hosting me this morning. Allow me to first thank the great people of Laikipia County who are viewing us today for the opportunity they gave me to serve them. That said, my contribution on the junior secondary issue would be that, number one, like yesterday, I came from Laikipia County. And I've been engaging a lot with my constituents and listening to the issues that they're undergoing. And it is my hope and prayer that never again should we gamble with the livelihoods or the lives of our children. Because when you sit with parents and you listen to what they're going through, you listen to a small child and they tell you, I had hoped never to go back to that school. So the assumption was that they were graduating to the secondary schools. Then here again, we have to take them back to the same schools they were at, and the schools are not well equipped for them to be undergoing the next level of their education. So for me, it's my hope and prayer that as soon as possible, we can have these laboratories constructed, we can have the extra classes constructed, so that these children are able to settle quickly and settle back into their education, because that is what they're looking forward to. Yes.
And of course, we know that the instructions from the government is that if they are nearby the secondary schools, then learners in those junior secondary schools can utilize the laboratories or the facilities in those institutions. But I'm also wondering, Honorable Koech, because the question of school fees, we still don't have a guideline on how much it should be paid. We have a guideline on secondary schools themselves. You have a guideline on primary schools, it's free primary education, but for junior secondary, would you know if there's any?
I think what really interrupted the program, our education program, is and its ambiguity, as you can see now, is the transition. There was that space that did not allow, I think the previous government did not come up with an elaborate plan of handover and exactly handover of the school curricula as has been designed. So that is why we find ourselves in many of these questions. There is no clear answer, there is no wrong answer. So we are still just hanging in there and waiting to see what happens.
Okay, all right. Now just to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be speaking about politics and development. This is stemming from the visit of President William Ruto to some counties of Nyanza region. Sam Atandi was there welcoming the president, said a few things. We'll be listening to them. Stay tuned.